All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to talk about a recent interview by Terence Crawford in which he talks about Errol Spence Jr. in a fight in Texas and also JERMELL Charlo. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. In this video, we're going to talk about Terence Crawford making some sense for sure in a refusal that he says that he is going to make in the Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford negotiations. And that is about having the fight in Texas, but that did not end what he had to say about the great state of Texas. But before I get into that though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are a subscriber to the channel, supporter of the channel, thank you very much for your support. If you're new to the channel, please accept my invitation to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos, which we do every day, and live streams we do in the morning, 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, which we do pretty much every morning. Great conversations. I hope you guys attend and participate in the conversation. All right, so we've got a fight that I'm hoping is going to get made. I am reporting on what is going on, pretty much what any party involved has to say, right? So there's obviously, some points of contention between the two camps. Some of it is related to money. I'm sure Terence Crawford wants to get paid as much money as he can for the fight. The PBC, Showtime, whoever is involved, saying, hey, man, we don't know how big this fight is. Let's try to be realistic as far as the amount of money that's paid. But one thing that came up, and again, I agreed with Terence Crawford asking for more money because I believe that, hey, man, that's not only a difficult fight with Errol Spence Jr., that's a dangerous fight, and you should get paid as much money as you possibly can get for that fight, right? Now, the other thing that he said, because he was on an interview with Sean Porter on the Porterweight podcast, was asked about where the fight would take place. And they said, would you fight in Texas? And he said, no, I would not fight in Texas. It's going to have to be in Vegas. It's going to have to be in a neutral place. And right there, I thought to myself, you know what? You're right about that. I get why you would not want to fight in Texas against Errol Spence Jr. because that's his hometown. But at the same time, I thought to myself, man, why don't you make it a little bit more hard to get more money into the fight? Because if the fight is in Texas, that fight could very well the gate on that fight would be absolutely huge. They had a 5 million gate off of 40,000 people for the Errol Spence Jr. versus Yordenis Ugas fight. For Errol Spence Jr. Terence Crawford fight, they may get the 60,000 people in that arena. And if they did 5 off 40, you're talking about a $9-10 million gate that could happen if that fight was in Dallas, if that fight was at AT&T Stadium and Dallas Stadium. That fight, I'm not sure now. At the same time, I know that when you have fights, really big fights in Vegas, and they have really, high ticket prices and the like, that, you can make a lot of money, more money in a Vegas fight sometimes than you can in a stadium fight, depending on what the cost for the tickets are. And I'm not going to say that wouldn't be the case with the Errol Spence Jr. Terence Crawford fight being in Vegas versus it being in Dallas. However, you guaranteed an $8-9 million gate if they did that fight there. But Terence Crawford not wanting to do it in Dallas makes sense to me. Absolutely, positively makes sense to me because, there's definitely a chance that fight can go to the scorecards. And if you're fighting on the road, you definitely have, the home crowd advantage with the cheering and the judging and all of that type of stuff. Texas also has, a reputation. As one of my favorite subscribers, Fahim Sator, said, Texas has a history of having some funny scorecards going on in Texas. So, I don't have an issue with what he had to say. Now, some other things that he said about Texas was funny because he kind of just flew off the handle a little bit because he's like, look, man, let me say this something about Texas too. This is what he said. Errol Spence Jr. is not from Texas. Errol Spence Jr. is from New York. And he said JERMELL Charlo is not from Texas. JERMELL Charlo is from Louisiana, Lafayette, Louisiana. These dudes need to stop trying to claim states that are not their states. Man, right there you lost me on that one. Because the fact of the matter is that Terence Crawford, that Errol Spence Jr., I don't know how old he was when he moved to Texas, but that man has been in Texas long enough to have a very, very, very severe Texas accent. He don't sound nothing like he's from New York. Now, there are other situations, like, for example, myself, I'm from the Chicagoland area. I spent the first 2-3 years of my life in my birth in the state that I was born in. But that's the area that I'm from, because that's the area that I was raised in. It's just, come on, man. Come on, man. Don't act like that man ain't from Texas, man. But everything is big in Texas, and they got a lot of pride in Texas, and they will sell a lot of tickets in Texas. So he said that, but then also on top of that, he says that after he gets done with Errol Spence Jr., that he wants to fight, that JERMELL Charlo is the next guy that he wants to fight, that he wants to move right up and fight JERMELL Charlo. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, if that fight takes place, man, there ain't no way that fight's not going to happen in Texas. All right. Now, Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford may do really big numbers in Vegas, but if they're going to have a JERMELL Charlo, for that seems to me to be a fight that more than likely should take place in Texas. Actually, that may actually be, as I think about it, the fight that should happen in Vegas in a site like that where you can make a lot of gambling money off that, because JERMELL Charlo fought. He's not that big a draw. It's similar to the situation with Terence Crawford, but maybe even a little bit more severe. But anyway, it goes, like I said in the video that I did about Terence Crawford, wanting to get paid, significant money for the Errol Spence Jr. fight. I agree 100% with him. I don't think that he should look for short money or whatever in that type of situation, because Errol's just such a dangerous fighter, man. That's a very, very big risk to your body that Terence Crawford's taken. Now, Terence was asked by Sean Porter, whether or not, what he thought, or the people that are doing the interview for the Porterweight podcast. I can't remember them by name. Asked like what style, he thinks, he would use to fight Errol. And he said pretty much the same thing that they always say, that look, man, I can do everything. I can fight on the inside. I can fight on the outside. I can fit southpaw. I can fit orthodox. If you want to mix it up and exchange, I'll exchange with them. All of that type of stuff, right? So it's going to be like he's just going to play off of what Errol Spence Jr. is doing and figure out a way to win. For me, I bet on the guy that I bet on the metronome regularity and a guy that is trying to break you down and trying to shut your systems off over somebody that is trying to figure out how to overcome somebody that's fighting them like a buzzsaw just by figuring it out. But it's going to be what it is, man. I'm sure it's going to be a great fight. I am leaning towards the fight happening. I think at the end of the day, they'll probably find something out that works financially for both parties. But it is what it is. We'll see what happens. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.